Today, I'm going to show you how to color grade footage from the DJI Avada in DaVinci using DaVinci Resolve Studio. So, let's get into the video. The first thing we're going to do is go into the Color tab and make sure that the correct clip is selected. Then we're going to go into the Curves tab and just create a simple S-curve. To keep this video simple, I'm not going to be using any LUTs or color space converters, just the Curves tab and the Wheel section. So, let's create a little S-curve just like this. And there we go. Now we're going to go into the next curve, wheel, so hue versus hue, and just add a little eyedroppers on every main hue. Now because we don't have a passport color checker, it's going to be a little bit harder than normal, but we're just going to mess with these a little bit to get the look that we want. And if the menu's a little bit too small, feel free to make it bigger by deactivating the windows like gallery, effects, and nodes, and clips. I'm going to add back the nodes tab just for now, but this will give us a bigger screen to look at the footage. I'm going to bring greens down a little bit. Now our total saturation is a little low, so I'm going to go into the wheels and bring up our saturation a little bit. Okay, now let's go back into the curves and go into hue versus sat. We're just going to add the same markers again and just play with these a little bit. We want a super saturated look. Bring up the blues a little bit, bring up the greens, and that's pretty good. Let's fast forward in the clip just a little bit to see where we're looking at for brightness. Pretty good. Let's go back into the main curves and bring up our highlights just a little bit more. Just make it pop. Bring her down. Darks just a little bit down further. There we go. And let's bring up our saturation for blues just a tiny bit more. There we go. Now let's take a quick look at the little thing right there. We can bring up the yellows maybe just a little bit. Bring down the greens. Awesome. Now we're crushing our blacks a little bit in the corner, so maybe go back to the curves and bring that up just a tiny bit. Just like that. And there we go. Now let's fast forward a little bit in the clip. I'd say it looks pretty good. Now we're gonna create a new node and use the wheels a little bit. So press Option S for a new node and go to the Wheels tab. Then we're just going to grab our gain and move it maybe a little bit towards the yellow. Now a little bit. There we go, we have a slight offset towards purple. And then one thing I want to do is go into this greenery and see how the trees aren't super saturated. Let's bring that up in the green, so let's go back over to our previous node and find our green hue. See, that isn't doing a whole lot, so let's go into the hue editor and change that. Bring that up just a tiny bit. Let's bring our blues down just a little bit more, see what that does. Okay, again, this isn't quite what I was hoping for, so let's go back into the curves. Let's just change our offset a tiny bit on the second node. A little bit more towards blue. And there we go, that looks pretty good. Playing back the footage a little bit, we are still crushing the blacks a little bit too much, so let's go back into the first node and bring that up a little bit. Now this footage does vary a lot depending where I was on the lake, so sometimes it was a little bit darker, sometimes it was brighter. Let's bring up that bottom just a little bit. And this footage looks great, but it's all just a little bit too blue now. So let's go back into the second node and maybe bring our gain back a little bit towards yellow. There we go. And as we can see, the white wash from the waves is white and the blue is pretty blue. Now depending on where we are, the footage will look different. We're just gonna do a final check real fast over here with the skin tones. I think everything looks pretty good. So that's how you color grade this. I was really impressed when I was flying the Avada how good the footage looked and how smooth it was. I was shooting this all in about 2.7K at 120 frames a second in D-Log. There was also a little bit of shooting in 4K, but I like to be able to slow my footage down a little bit. So that is how you can color grade footage from the DJI Avada with DaVinci. Now, depending on the scenario you're in, you will want to boost certain other colors, and it will really vary a lot on what you're shooting. But for water, I think this looks pretty good. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. If you want to help support the channel, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell to see when the next video comes out. And if you want to help support the channel directly, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. And check out the Amazon affiliate links below if you want to pick up any of the gear we use. Well, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next video.